Welcome to RSSDI TV 2020. I am Dr. Shahu Ingole and you are watching me on RSSDI TV 2020 brought to you by Wockhardt. Today, I am honored to have with me an eminent personality and renowned senior diabetologist and bariatric physician, Dr. Neeta Deshpande, ma'am. Welcome to the show, ma'am. Ma'am, it has become widely accepted that type 2 diabetes is inevitably a lifelong and irreversible and progressive beta cell damage. But this concept has been recently questioned by some researchers. So, what is your take on this, and can you provide a little bit of background for the twin cycle hypothesis?
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Engole, for this question. It is indeed an interesting concept that what we always thought of as a completely irreversible and inexorably progressive disease has now been challenged initially by Roy Taylor, who got he actually received the Banting Award for this, the Banting Lecture at the ADA at the beginning of this decade. And he propagated this twin cycle hypothesis, which actually said, or which actually proved that later on, that it is probably not so progressive and probably it could be reversed, and the beta cell damage that is there may not be complete, and there could be a point, or it's not a point of no return, and it could be, you could come back from that and actually reverse the state. And that is what the twin cycle hypothesis came up with.
Okay. So, ma'am, what does this twin cycle hypothesis proposes?
The twin cycle hypothesis, actually, when it was first proposed, the idea actually came from bariatric surgery studies. So when bariatric surgery was done, it was found that the diabetes reversed within days. Literally within days, the blood sugars dropped to normal even before the weight loss actually occurred. So the effect on the incretin hormones, etc., which is proposed as the reason for reversal of diabetes in bariatric surgery, probably happens later, but these effects were seen much earlier. So it was thought that it is actually the profound reduction in caloric intake which actually caused the diabetes to reverse so early after bariatric surgery. So taking off from there, he proposed this hypothesis that, and the pathophysiology behind this hypothesis is that when you have chronic excessive caloric intake that goes on for years and years together, you know that carbohydrates and glucose, there's a limited capacity for storage in the form of glycogen. So what happens to the rest of it? The rest of it has to get converted into fat and stored somewhere. So that is what we call de novo lipogenesis. And in human beings, de novo lipogenesis occurs only in the liver. On the other hand, now, the other side of the story is that there are certain individuals who are insulin resistant because of some family factors, risk factors, or because of their lifestyle factors, because of which they are in a state of hyperinsulinemia. So this combination of chronic caloric intake, excessive intake, so there's a ready-made fuel over there waiting to undergo lipogenesis. And on the other hand, you have hyperinsulinemia because of insulin resistance. Insulin is the one that drives the de novo lipogenesis. And this is occurring in the liver. So it tends to get stored in the liver. So when it gets stored in the liver, hepatic insulin sensitivity goes down, because of which hepatic glucose output goes unchecked, and there is increased amount of hepatic glucose output. Ultimately, and this is going on for years, ultimately the fasting blood sugar increases and the person becomes diabetic. Now this is called the liver cycle. So out of the twin cycle, this is the first cycle, the liver cycle, which actually goes on and on and on because of excessive caloric intake. Mind you, the starting point here was the excessive caloric intake, which is chronic. Now that the de novo lipogenesis has occurred in the liver, relentlessly, if the person keeps on eating and there is excessive chronic caloric intake, the de novo lipogenesis and the liver stores get full, and this spills over onto into the plasma as VLDL and is exported to other organs. Now, important for us from this point of view, from the twin cycle hypothesis point of view, is that the excessive lipids go and get deposited in the pancreas. And he proved through his further studies that it takes less than half a gram of fat to get deposited in the pancreas for beta cell function to be compromised and to cause diabetes. So the excess fat which goes and gets deposited in the pancreas interferes with insulin secretion, ultimately leading to full-blown diabetes. And this is the twin cycle hypothesis. And these are self-perpetuating cycles which continue to go on because of excessive caloric intake. So what he proposed was, if you want these cycles to spin in the opposite anti-clockwise direction, what you need to do is go back to the root, that is the excessive caloric intake, and make it a negative calorie balance. So if you go and do a negative calorie balance, ultimately what's going to happen? They're all going to go spin in the opposite direction, and he actually proved it afterwards. So this is the basis of the twin cycle hypothesis. So you have the liver cycle and the pancreas cycle. These are the twins actually, which when spinning in the clockwise direction cause diabetes.
Okay, ma'am. So, do you think that the reversal of type 2 diabetes is a reality today? And are there any clinical trial evidences available to prove that the reversal of type 2 diabetes is possible?
Definitely. What Dr. Roy Taylor did then was this hypothesis he proved with a small number of patients in the counterpoint study. And what he found in the counterpoint study, and that was proof of concept. So it's not about durability and reversibility and all of that. It was proof of concept of what I told you in the actual twin cycle. So what he did was he took those few number of patients, maybe 8 or 10, and in those patients he put them on a very low calorie diet, and then he did a bunch of investigations on them, where he measured the liver fat, then he measured the insulin secretion and the first phase of insulin secretion, the pancreatic fat, and a whole lot of studies. And what he proved was that literally within days of instituting a very low calorie diet, the sugar started to drop, the liver fat started to go down, and after a few weeks, the pancreatic fat also started to go down, and the diabetes was reversed. So it was proved that his concept was right. And then he did the direct study, which is a large study, mostly primary healthcare center based in the UK. And 2 years, 3 years down the line now, it's been 2 to 3 years since he actually instituted it on a large scale, and people reversed. Those who lost the highest weight had the highest chances of reversing their diabetes. And it was very elegantly shown in the direct study. Then there were several other studies also which have proven that very low calorie diets can actually increase hepatic insulin sensitivity, restore pancreatic beta cell secretion. So there are a lot of studies now, and even in my own center, we have studies, and our paper was accepted this year at the ACE 2020, where we also showed that yes, you can reverse diabetes. So there is the proof, and it is said that as long as you can keep the weight off, the diabetes may stay reversed. We don't know how long that can happen, but it's early days yet. But yes, the proof is there, and it's a ray of hope.
Okay. So, finally, ma'am, what is your final key message to the practicing diabetologists watching this show?
Yeah, my key message is that reversal of diabetes with lifestyle management is a possibility. However, the quantum of weight loss that is required to reverse diabetes is far more than a simple diabetic diet. You need a quantum of weight loss of about 12 to 15 kgs. Now, this may not be possible for everyone. Everyone may not opt for it, but this information and this option must be offered to most type 2 diabetics. Now, whether they actually take it up, whether they are motivated enough to do it or not, that is the next question. But the fact is that it can be done, and it should be offered to patients. Of course, the chances of reversal are highest in the earlier stages, in the earlier years after diabetes is detected. But there is no age or duration of diabetes that is bar for at least trying to do so, because even if you don't get 100% reversal, even a 50% reversal is good enough. So it's not that you have to make the person completely medicine free. If you can even reduce the dose of his medicines, and you can actually turn back the clock as much as possible, that should be fine. So my key message here is that reversal of diabetes is a possibility by lifestyle modification. It has to be done under supervision by the doctor who is well versed in this process, and it should be an option that should be offered to most type 2 diabetics.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us on RSSDI TV brought to you by Wockhardt and sharing your valuable views. Thank you so much.